It's been a while. Happy Christmas, guys. Overview of what's going on this first one. So it's a Vaillant I get called to, and essentially there's no heating. There's hot water, it's all fine, but the heating is not coming through, and it's just suddenly done this. I haven't been to the boiler before, so I pull down the flap and see this apparatus in there that I don't like the look at. Transformer and all that stuff. Can't stand stuff like that inside the boiler. Shouldn't be there. And then the next thing I can hear is squirting water. What the fuck is this? Oh, God. What is going on? Let's go to work. All of these little bits here, all the bits out of the diverter, and it's crumbled. So this is the faulty motor, and this is a spindle. So you can see it's just rotating. It's also unscrewing, but this is a problem because what will happen is when the motor rotates, the whole shaft will rotate with it, and it can spin on the shaft there. So the idea is that this should be locked, and the way it gets locked is here. You can see these splines that locate in here, and if you look at this one, you can see it, they're completely shot, so there's nothing left. It's basically ground it to pieces, so that's why a few bits come out. So this is a proper one, and it's locked and it won't rotate. It'll go in and out when the motor rotates and draws it in and out, and that's why in this particular case this shaft wasn't pulling the diverter, and hence it was locked into hot water. So little tip for you there. So with the motor pulled out, get that side, pop it on the hole, pin rather, and pull towards it upwards, and then push back in and put the collar on. Collar simply, because of the slot, goes over, pops on, and screw on. Don't forget to put the clip back in, otherwise it won't work, like my mate gets. Okay, turn the power on, just briefly. Motor will move, there you go, it's pulled in, lock it up, final tight, so that just draws it in. There you go, that should be us. She's just come in for another beer, 86 years of age. Call to a customer whose boiler I serviced about 4 or 5 years ago. They've got excessively hot water. It's a system boiler, so it's got 2 motorised valves, and on inspection one of the motorised valves for the hot water side is locked open and jammed, so it won't close. It's just stuck in the open position. So whenever this boiler is running, whether it's in heating or called for heat for this hot water, it's going through the hot water circuit, so it's heating up the hot water cylinder indefinitely. So I see that issue, I resolve the motorised valve, and then I open up the boiler to service it, find the automatic air vent, as you'll see, leaking, and change that, and notice that there's a peculiarity where even when there's no call for heat, the boiler seems to fire up. This is after I turned off the power to the boiler and turned it back on. I then disconnect the switch line to it, and still, as you'll see, it's firing up. So it started to look like the board had also gone, whether it was down to the motorised valve had done it or whatever. So I go through some D codes and reset the boiler to make sure that the DNS was correct for the particular boiler, the model type. The plus range, I think it's a 330 kilowatt, something like that. Anyway, it's DNS4 on this one. So I change it, double check, and sure enough the boiler's still firing up. So I'm a bit miffed by it. So I turn the power off, turn it back on, and it's still doing it. I look at it as a PCB fault. I turned it off and I left it overnight, and the customer called me the next day after I told him just turn it on in the morning, and lo and behold, no problems. It's turning on, turning off, and I checked it. It's had no problems since. This just goes to show you that sometimes you can get some strange things with the PCBs. Just patience with it, and this resolved itself miraculously. It's Christmas. So you've been topping it up a little bit. Happy fun. I'll just turn that off.
I'm guessing I'm topping up for a reason as opposed to...
This is the second time I'm called to this boiler. The initial call was pressure loss in the system. So I turned up and I found a whole load of faulty parts on the floor. A pump, automatic air vent, and a PRV. Having looked at that, I determined that I would give the boiler a check for the expansion vessel and just generally check the system. You'll see that you can see a stop tap that's leaking, nothing to do with the system pressure or anything, but this was a concern, plus along with the condensed pipe that was stuck on a digistat. Anyway, I then get a call the same day, pressure's gone down again. So had a quick look, and you'll see I find I have to do an investigation on the system loss because I don't think it's the boiler. So I check the filling loop, and before I do that I check the whole system. So I check all of the radiator valves, check all of the top of the bleed valves, everything, no leaks, no stains on the ceiling, nothing like that. Happy days. But what I did notice as I walked straight through the front door is there's a radiator, and sure enough the skirting's all swelled up, and the lady says that she has this problem every single winter, problems, and no one's been able to get to the bottom of it. So she got my number and was sure that I would find the issue. Sure enough, second visit, found it. Leaking radiator, that's number one. But you'll find something interesting on the filling loop. Whenever any of the taps are used, or there's a decline on the water pressure, i.e. any of the cold, any of the hot are drawn out. If anyone were to be trying to pressurise the system, you'll see an interesting dilemma that happens on the filling loop. This is by part L, I think it's called a part P or whatever they call it. The filling loop with with a check valve and two isolation valves is so important, so that you don't allow the water to go back in. The check valve is clearly the most important part in this video, but you'll see anyway. Enjoy. Okay, so this is a Ecotech and they've had an issue on it. So, well, I'll rephrase that. They've had an issue on the system. They've been constantly having to top it up with pressure and it's been losing pressure and all sorts. So, you can see this filling loop in here has got a single lever on one side coming off the coal mains and going into the heating side. So the 22mm is the heating circuit. This is a check valve, a one-way valve, so it stops the water from coming back out, in theory. So what's been happening is the pressure only up here will get to 1.2 bar because we're at the top of the house, and the pressure is not sufficient to get any more than that. But what I've noticed is when the tap runs, the pressure up here goes to about 0.8, 0.9. So when they're topping it up with probably a tap running, what's happening is the check valve is faulty. So what it's allowing is for the water to come out of there, back into the cold water circuit and come out of the heating, out of the tap. So it's actually losing pressure when you pressurize it with the boiler or the tap on demand. So there was a pinhole in one of the radiators, but that's combined and it's created more of an issue. So just a little update, if you get these, what you can do to check this, and I haven't done it yet, is if you turn the valve off clearly, yeah, so that's off. If you were to, let's get a rag or something, there's a handy rag, get a rag or something. Now in theory there'll be a tiny little burst of water and then it should back off. Let's see what's going on. Oh God. So in theory, if I had the right tools for the job, which I don't up here, I'm not going downstairs for my tool bag. You won't. Okay, Leatherman moment. Okay, so I'll just loosen that off, so in theory you should get a little burst and then that should be it. If it carries on or it's draining out, that could be. Okay, so there's your burst and it's carrying on. And it's hot water, so it's coming out of the central heating system. And that's why you should always use the right stuff. Part L. So you should have a lever on this and a lever on that. And sure enough, washing machine was on. So that was drawing out some. We have a leak from the radiator. Joy of joys. Made of cheese. You got ignition. Just got no gas. That's not very good. So that holds it a bit too close, and when I try to Two different codes, and then out. Nothing. What you gonna diagnose it as? Here she goes again.
You say C.
That'll be it then. Joy of joys. Last job on a Friday. We put in a new one of these. New pump. New diverter. Spent hours trying to get the salus to link up. So customer complaining that the water pressure's crap, but they just had this new tank fitted. Wait for it. Ooh, and then it's better when you do that. Well, I wonder what's going on with that hose when you do that. Oh, that straightens up, and that's why it's so shit. Fix it, you moron. Call him back, get him to fix it. So you fit a expansion vessel and you need a way to service it in a year's time. So this is what I did a year ago when I didn't have a Tesla valve. Yep, that's a Vaillant drain down. So it's an old one, 3/4 on one side. Clearly you can isolate and then drain down from that point there. So little tip for you if you didn't have one of those. Alright, just little drain down. See that staining? Look for the clues. Okay, so masses of water on here. Clearly it's rusty, so first thing I'm going to do is have a look up here. Nothing. What about this collar? Oh, look at that. Soaking. Okay, so the seal here looks okay. There's a leak evident at the back, fine. That seal there looks okay. So why is it leaking? So in the end of here is the terminal. But to me, it doesn't look like there's a seal. So what's happening is it's coming back down that and basically spilling out into that air section and pouring back into here. So from day one, so 11, 10 years, that's been leaking and no one's ever picked it up. So we've got water coming into this passage here. It's spilling from here, so this goes on to there. Yeah, I'm happy with that. The problem is that there is no proper seal in there, so it just pushes in there, which then means, if you imagine, that just goes into there, yeah? Of course it's going to leak out of there. Okay, so I've checked the flue, now I'm going... Oh shit. That's been happening quite a while, hasn't it? Shit. Okay, so the question is there a Vaillant? I don't normally work on these, but it's working fine. There's just a leak on it. So the question is, what won't you work on? Because I'm not fussy. Oh, this is going to be fun, isn't it? There's a leak at the back there. Another day in paradise. Well, that's seized. So the question is, which would you do, guys? Clearly you're going to need, I think, FLUE seal. Maybe a couple more up there. Burner out, new gasket, fan. So, do you repair or do you ditch it? Let's have a look at this. Well, it's definitely down there. Don't have one of them at all. Well, so new fan, new seal, new seal, new seal, new seal, new higher seal, new set of electrodes. Fingers crossed. Always good to turn the gas on. We have liftoff. Boom, shake the room. Got you back to life. Oh yeah. That's been on for a couple of hours now. It's toasty dry. No issues. All looks good. Happy days. Today's beauty, another POWERFLUSH. So the feed comes in from the side. You can just about see. So this is a Suprema, so it'll have a cast iron heat exchanger. You can see just how bad it is. Looks like it might have taken on a bit of water too. So because the height is pretty close. Really two in the big brewer house. So this is another POWERFLUSH vent. That's our setup. It's an open vent system, so we're connected there directly to the pump outlet. Pump's taken out. Got the feed from the loft. So up in the loft where the cold storage tank is, taking the tea out of there. So we've disconnected the F&E tank and connected onto here. So we'll fill this up a tiny bit. This is more than enough. Check we've got no leaks. Turn that off. As a safety precaution, turn it off upstairs and then do the flush from here. But the joy of it. Been a while. How many fucking winnies that booze do you need? Jesus. So this is the setup upstairs. So we've got the cold feed capped off. I don't know if you can see that. That's what I normally do, cap it off there. We've got the feed, cold services feed mains coming out of there, and that's going directly off to the power flushing machine. So clearly check and then isolate this one if you're not using it, just seeing a tiny drip, so that's isolate. So straight away you can see that it's starting to crust up already, and this is on the fresh water side. This is the beauty of the clear mags on these. You can physically see it getting worse or better as you rinse through or flush through particular radiators. Instantly you can see that, can't you? If these valves don't isolate, then just a bit of bedtime drinking. Let's go and have a look. Yeah, I guess that's why you've almost got